Booker T versus Batista. WWE wanted a flashy SummerSlam commercial. They got a backstage fistfight instead. It was 2006. WWE flew in all their top stars to film a big budget ad. Everyone's oiled up, flexing, grinning for the cameras, but behind the scenes, not so picture perfect. Enter Batista, world heavyweight champion and walking like he knew it. Rumor was Big Dave had been acting a little too Hollywood, ignoring people in the locker room, keeping to himself, giving off that I'm the star of the movie energy. And Booker T, he wasn't feeling that energy. Booker was old school. Respect mattered. So when Batista kept brushing him off like a background extra, Booker finally snapped. Words were exchanged. Then louder words. And then, boom. Real punches started flying, right there at the commercial shoot, in front of the whole production crew. And this wasn't a little shoving match. Booker threw hands, Batista threw back, but to everyone's surprise, Booker handled him, like five-time WCW champ handled him. Rumors say Booker landed clean shots and won the fight outright. And here's the best part. They still had to finish filming together afterward. Yup, two dudes who just beat the hell out of each other, now fake smiling for the cameras, pretending everything was cool while trying to cover up their bruises with makeup. The fight ended with both men making peace, but let's be real, it was more like a we won't kill each other on set kind of truce. Chris Jericho versus Goldberg. If you were making a list of WWE's most unlikely real-life tough guys, Chris Jericho probably wouldn't be near the top. But after this, he's got receipts. This beef goes way back to the WCW days. Jericho, still rocking the ponytail and sparkly vest, was tearing it up as a loudmouth heel. And one of his favorite targets, a big, bald wrecking machine named Goldberg. Jericho would mock him, spoof his entrance, call him out every week. The fans loved it. Goldberg, not so much. Problem was, Goldberg didn't want to work a feud with Jericho, thought he wasn't in his league, which only made Y2J more annoyed. Fast forward to 2003 in WWE, and the tension followed them like a bad booking. After a show, Goldberg made some offhand comment about Jericho backstage, something along the lines of, he's not worth my time. Jericho was not having it. He walked straight up to Goldberg and said, you got a problem? Now, here's where it gets fun. Goldberg, massive, jacked, and fresh out of WCW, goes for the tough guy move, tries to grab Jericho. Jericho, all 5'10" of him, grabs Goldberg first, wraps him up in a front facelock, and suddenly the locker room's biggest beast is stuck like a fish in a Ziploc bag. Everyone froze. Guys say Jericho had it locked in tight. Goldberg couldn't move, couldn't escape. And yes, this actually happened. Eventually, it was broken up, but the legend was born. Never underestimate the scrappy Canadian with submission training and zero fear, especially when he's got a list and your name's on it. The plane ride from hell, a flying disaster. If you ever thought WWE wrestlers only go wild in the ring, buckle up. In 2002, WWE chartered a private flight home from a European tour. First class, open bar, long flight. What could go wrong? Everything. This wasn't just turbulence, this was a full-on, mile-high meltdown, complete with booze, fights, and lawsuits. The main issue? WWE kept the plane grounded on the runway for 7 hours before takeoff. And during that wait, the wrestlers got drunk. Not tipsy, obliterated. They ran through 3 entire carts of liquor before the wheels even left the ground. Once airborne, things spiraled fast. Curt Hennig, aka Mr. Perfect, started talking trash to Brock Lesnar. Not smart. They ended up wrestling in the aisle, slamming into the emergency exit door mid-air. Yes, really. Flight attendants were panicking. Meanwhile, Ric Flair, wearing only his robe, was strutting up and down the aisle, reportedly flashing the flight crew. Not exactly woo behavior. Scott Hall passed out so badly he had to be wheelchaired off the plane. Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, grabbed the plane's intercom and started singing to his ex-wife, loudly, for way too long. By the time the wheels touched down, WWE had a full-on PR nightmare. Multiple wrestlers were fined, some fired, lawsuits followed, careers were damaged. What was supposed to be a relaxing ride home turned into one of the darkest and most infamous days in WWE history. Hold up! If you think these fights are wild, just wait. It gets even crazier. We're talking broken jaws, real punches, and grudges that lasted years. And hey, if there's a backstage brawl you think we left out, or one you swear was real, drop it in the comments. We're always down to dig up the dirt. All right, back to the chaos. Dynamite Kid versus Jacques Rougeau. This one, it didn't end in a brawl. It ended in a statement. Back in the late 80s, the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith, were a dominant tag team. But behind the scenes, Dynamite wasn't just intense in the ring. He was a bully. Brutal ribbing, harsh pranks, and he had it out for the Rougeau brothers, especially Jacques. Dynamite would slap Jacques around in the locker room, hide his gear, mock him in front of others. One day he even sucker punched him, hard, in front of a bunch of wrestlers. Jacques was humiliated, but he didn't respond right away. Instead, he waited, quietly, patiently. A few weeks later, backstage before a show in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Jacques struck back. He walked up to Dynamite, who wasn't expecting anything, and cracked him with a loaded fist of rolled-up quarters hidden in his hand. One shot. He broke Dynamite's teeth, knocked out 4 of them on the spot, and walked away before anyone could step in. And here's the wild part. Dynamite didn't fight back. Word is, he was stunned. Some say he was scared, knowing the Rougeaus had powerful backing from Hulk Hogan and French-Canadian wrestling legends. Dynamite wanted revenge, but WWF officials warned him, one more incident and you're fired. So Jacques got his receipt. No war, no brawl, just one clean, career-defining punch that shut a bully down cold.
Chris Jericho versus Brock Lesnar. This might be the wildest part of Jericho's career, and this man once fought a fridge full of thumbtacks. SummerSlam 2016, Brock Lesnar just finished his match against Randy Orton by elbowing him in the skull so hard it looked like Orton had lost a bet in a horror movie. Blood everywhere. The ref called it off, Orton was out cold, and Brock stood there like he just conquered Westeros. Backstage, it was total confusion. Chris Jericho, who wasn't in the match but was definitely in the building, saw Randy laid out and thought, wait, was that supposed to happen? No one told him the finish was planned. And let's be real, Lesnar elbowing a man into unconsciousness looked pretty real. So Jericho does what Jericho does. He storms into gorilla position, starts demanding answers, and when he doesn't get them, he marches straight up to Brock Lesnar, because apparently this man fears absolutely nothing, not even a 280-pound UFC monster who eats deer for breakfast. Jericho gets in Brock's face and says something like, "What the hell was that?" Brock, not amused, shoves Jericho. Jericho shoves back. And suddenly, it's Brock Lesnar versus Fozzie's lead singer in the most unexpected dream match of all time. Vince McMahon and Triple H had to physically separate them before someone got suplexed into catering. Later, once Jericho found out the finish was a worked shoot, he backed off, but didn't apologize. And the locker room loved it, because Jericho stood his ground, even when that ground was shaking under Brock's boots. Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. This wasn't on Raw. It wasn't a pay-per-view. There were no cameras. But ask anyone who was there and they'll tell you it was one of the most legit showdowns in WWE history. Back in 2002, Brock Lesnar was the new monster on the block. A freak athlete, NCAA wrestling champ, 6'3", 280, moved like a linebacker with jet engines in his legs. Everyone in WWE knew he was the real deal. Everyone except Kurt Angle. Angle, an Olympic gold medalist, had heard the hype, but he hadn't seen Brock's amateur game up close. So one day backstage, someone asked, who'd win in a real wrestling match, Kurt or Brock? And no crowd, no referee, just 2 elite wrestlers throwing down in front of a few stunned onlookers in an empty WWE ring. At first, Lesnar was hesitant. He respected Kurt, but Angle pushed it. So they locked up. And what followed was a real, gritty, Olympic-style wrestling match. According to people there, it was close, intense. Brock was stronger, Angle was quicker and more technical, but in the end, Angle came out on top. He out-wrestled the next big thing. No drama, no punches, just pure mat wrestling. Brock didn't get embarrassed, but he did get humbled. Lesnar told people afterward, that guy's legit. Versus the Rookie. This one gets dark and fast. Perry Saturn was always intense, tough guy, army vet, tattooed, jacked, and no nonsense, in and out of the ring. But in the early 2000s, something snapped. During a dark match, one of those non-televised bouts to warm up the crowd, Saturn was paired with a green Rookie, just a young guy trying to break in. But early in the match, the Rookie made a mistake, a bad one. He botched a basic move and accidentally dropped Saturn on his head. Saturn didn't take this lightly. Instead of brushing it off or pulling the Rookie aside later, he went full-on revenge mode. Right there, mid-match, he legit started beating the kid down. Stiff punches, brutal slams, not worked shots, real ones. He tossed the Rookie around like a rag doll, screamed at him mid-ring, and didn't let up. The crowd was confused. The ref didn't know what to do. This wasn't a match anymore. It was a one-sided beating. Afterward, word spread, fast. Some wrestlers understood Saturn's anger. Getting dropped on your head is dangerous.
But others were straight up disturbed by how far he took it. The rookie? Shaken up, physically hurt, probably emotionally wrecked too. WWE didn't punish Saturn, but fans and wrestlers never forgot it.
Still with us? Good. Because the next few brawls, they're straight up insane. Chairs flying, fists swinging, and some stories that'll make you rethink your favorite wrestlers. And hey, if you're into this kind of unfiltered wrestling drama, smash that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more backstage mayhem coming your way every week. Undertaker versus Kurt Angle. Picture this. A long overseas WWE flight, lights dimmed, wrestlers stretched out or passed out, and Kurt Angle, he decides it's the perfect time to wrestle the boss. Yup, on the plane. This wasn't a match, just some mid-air horseplay. Angle, ever the Olympic goofball, tackled Vince McMahon in the aisle mid-flight. They were rolling around like kids, trading holds, laughing. A few of the boys nearby were watching, egging them on quietly. But someone was not laughing. That someone? The Undertaker. Taker had been asleep in his seat, jet-lagged, groggy, and when he opened his eyes and saw Angle grappling Vince McMahon in the aisle, he didn't think it was a joke. He thought it was a hijacking. Before anyone could say a word, the dead man leapt from his seat, stormed down the aisle, and locked a legit chokehold on Kurt Angle right there on the plane. The Olympic gold medalist was suddenly gasping, red-faced, trying to say, "It's just a joke, it's just a joke." But Taker didn't let go right away. You have to understand, Undertaker was the judge, jury, and enforcer of the locker room. If you mess with Vince, you messed with him, joke or not. Finally, McMahon and a few others broke it up. Taker eased up, Angle caught his breath, and the rest of the flight, let's just say it got a lot quieter after that. No heat, no grudge, but from then on, everyone on that flight knew, don't play fight with the boss when the dead man's catching Z's nearby. Because even 30,000 feet in the air, Undertaker protected the yard. Arn Anderson versus Sid Vicious. This one didn't happen in the ring. It happened in a hotel hallway, and it nearly turned deadly. It was 1993. WCW was on tour in the UK, and tensions were boiling between Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious. Two veterans with strong personalities and no patience for each other. One night at the hotel bar, things got heated. They started trading barbs over who really carried the company. Arn, part of the legendary Four Horsemen, Sid, the big man WCW was trying to push to the top. Drinks were flowing, voices got louder, and Sid took it too far. He threatened Arn, even said something about stabbing him in his sleep. Everyone thought it was just drunk talk, until it wasn't. Later that night, Sid stormed down the hallway, holding a chair leg. He went straight to Arn's hotel room and kicked in the door. A fight broke out, wild, messy, and terrifying. Arn, in a panic, grabbed the only thing he could find, a pair of scissors. What followed was chaos. The two men stabbed and slashed each other in that hotel room, blood everywhere. By the time it was broken up, Sid had been stabbed over 20 times. Arn had puncture wounds too. Both men survived, but barely. Sid was sent home immediately. Arn was too injured to fly. The incident shook the entire locker room. This wasn't just a fight. This was attempted murder. WCW never fully recovered from the bad press, and while both men would eventually return to wrestling, that night in the UK, it left scars literally and figuratively. Haku versus Brutus Beefcake. If wrestling had a real-life final boss, it was Haku. Not loud, not flashy, just a calm, terrifying mountain of a man, with the hands of a bear and the patience of a saint, until you pushed him. And one day, Brutus the Barber Beefcake hit that exact nerve. It was the late 80s. Brutus, riding high on Hulk Hogan's coattails, thought he was untouchable. Always strutting, always talking, and apparently talking a little too much. So there he is, backstage, throwing out some wisecracks. Maybe it was ego. Maybe he forgot where he was. Either way, Haku didn't like what he heard. And when Haku doesn't like something, he doesn't file a complaint. He files you into the nearest steel surface. Before anyone could blink, Haku grabbed Brutus by the throat, lifted him like a child's action figure, and, here's the part people still talk about, slammed his head into a steel doorframe. Hard. Twice. Brutus didn't fight back. He was too busy trying to remember his name, and whether he still had a neck. It took multiple guys to pull Haku off. Not because he was wild, but because he was calm. Too calm. Like he was just finishing up a chore. And when it was over, Brutus sat in silence, probably questioning his life choices, and possibly seeing 3 versions of the steel frame.
Backstage from that day forward, the rule was clear. You don't poke the bear. Especially when the bear's name is Haku, and he once bit a guy's nose off for real.
If you loved the chaos or think we missed a brutal backstage beatdown, drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on our latest wrestling madness, behind-the-scenes drama, and the moments that really weren't scripted.